Is this a safe space to admit that the Paramore cover of the Talking Heads song Burning Down the House made me cry? It was sent to me on Instagram by a friend of the show, Jess. She said she wasn't sure if I was aware of it, but felt like I needed to hear it. The truth is, I was aware of it, but I'd been avoiding it. I was very nervous how this was going to go. To me, it seems like the Talking Heads are maybe one of the hardest bands imaginable to cover. And so, like, if you're going to do a Talking Heads cover, you're already setting out to climb Mount Everest. And to say that you're going to cover Burning Down the House is like saying you're going to climb Mount Everest blindfolded. And as the song started up, I was a little bit uneasy because I was like, okay, well, they've sort of lightly modernized that guitar sound at the beginning of the song. That's fine. They have kept the sort of very cheesy tom-tom drums, which, you know, now I'm thinking like maybe you have to do. But, you know, it was nerve-wracking until Hayley Williams, the singer for Paramore, starts singing. And immediately it works.
Watch out. You might get what you have to. Cool babies. Stays but not a stranger. I'm an ordinary guy. Burning down the house.
There's just so much energy and intensity to this vocal performance. And, you know, as the song was going along, I sort of decided in my head that the litmus test was going to be the line, "Some things sure can sweep me off my feet," which David Byrne does to wild effect. So, you know, I kind of felt myself tensing as we were approaching that part in the song. But, I mean, she clears the hurdle so easily, it's ridiculous.
That's right. Don't wanna hurt nobody. Some things sure can sweep me off my feet.
And then like 2 lines later, she does this huge roar that is just so over the top and wonderful that moment, that was when the tears started to flow. And they were tears of like, my God, they did it.
Next to written into the TV set. Fight fire with fire.
You know, I love a big successful swing, and that's what this cover is. Now, as it turns out, there's actually a whole album of Stop Making Sense covers from different bands. I would not advise that you listen to anything else.
And this is the whole thing.
Yeah, that looks cool.
Yeah. But if you take it off, it looks like this.
Round, round, round the square.
You're listening to Round the Square. It's 9:21, and it's 106.1 FM Portsmouth Community Radio. We now join Round the Square, already in progress, with your host, Dan Freund, and our guests today, Mark Siegel of Folded and Zach Little. Zach Little, what are you doing today?
You know, in my free time, I host a podcast. It's called Make a Mixtape. And what I do a lot of times, I ask people a lot of questions about like songs that are important to them. What's a song that reminds you of your childhood? What's a song that reminds you of a loved one? That kind of thing. And I was thinking we would do kind of a mini version of the podcast here on this, like nestle it inside this show, and do a segment about a song you've been listening to on repeat.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I did, in fact, Phil, I did email you a segment we can drop in at some point. But while you look for that, we can go around the horn.
Okay.
You know, what are you listening to a lot right now, Dan?
That is a good question. I've come back to Polo and Pan, a French electronic duo. And my girlfriend took me to a show earlier this year. We went to the House of Blues and saw them down at the House of Blues. And they put on an amazing light show that I was totally mesmerized by. And I've had that in the car the past couple of days.
Do you think that the French government subsidizes electronic music duos? Because they are like one of France's chief exports. It's like wine, cheese, electronic music duos.
I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility, you know.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
That's very good. Yeah.
The Eurovision pipeline.
Yeah. What about you? Is a song that's been blaring in the folded kitchen recently?
Well, doing a lot of R&B. The kitchen, we don't do any music in there. We just let the diner music do it, so we're not competing. But I've been listening to a lot of Gary Clark Jr.
Oh, yeah. I know Gary Clark Jr.
I've always been a big blues fan and just heard the new album, JPEG Raw, and it absolutely blew me away. The layers, the textures, how he's developed in his career is just phenomenal.
It's the having to strike a balance between kitchen and dining room music is always a tough situation in like Portsmouth restaurants because many of them are open or small or close, like the one in Folded is. I used to work in the kitchen sometimes at Colby's, and there's a dining room speaker and a kitchen speaker, and the way we figured it out was just have them facing in opposite directions, right? So there is like a 4-foot space where you could hear both going at the same time, and obviously the dining room music is a little more palatable to the general sensibility than the kitchen music. The kitchen music was often like
little guar.
Yeah,
maybe.
very aggressive. Yeah, guar was actually what I thought of. It's usually either guar or like very aggressive hip hop, like Dead Prez, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was kind of fun to kind of stand in the negative space between the two and try to reconcile that vibe. But yeah, I've been listening a lot too. There's this new album of Talking Heads covers, which on its surface, right, you'd think is a bad idea. What band should cover Talking Heads? And the answer is, listening to the album, not most bands. But there's a cover of Burning Down the House by this band Paramore, and I'm
Interesting.
the wrong phase millennial to have really been a Paramore person. I wasn't super familiar with their game, but I've always loved Burning Down the House. So I put it on. I thought, I don't know, can anybody equal the Stop Making Sense version of this song? And the answer is still no, but like they got pretty close. And I think that the reason is, I had a friend point this out and I listened to it and I realized it. David Byrne, the thing he does that's the best is he makes lots of weird little vocalizations, lots of yelps and yips and screeches. And you don't really notice it all the time. It kind of blends into the background, but it's very important. And
he uses his voice as an instrument, which is very... it's a hard thing to do.
Yes, and so the singer of Paramore, this woman, Hayley Williams, she does a lot of like really unhinged sort of like growls and roars in the song, which really works, and I think that's what puts it over the top. So I've been listening to that a lot. Yeah, it's working out.
And now for you, Phil.
I am both ready with the segment as well as going to say that there are two songs that I'm listening to on repeat, and they're both by the band AJR. They're a new trio that I just heard about. My wife is going to Madison Square Garden to see them like front row, like fourth row back, like dead center. So they have two songs. One is Hole in the Bottom of My Brain. And the other song is Steve's Going to London. And the reason why I've been singing this song on repeat in my brain is because the second half of the chorus goes, Steve's going to London, Dan peed in the pool. Which makes me laugh because Dan Freund is not the kind of person who would do that.
No, I don't pee in the pool.
So it's not about him.
No, it's at least I hope not, unless you know somebody named Steve who's going to London.
I know a guy named Steve who lives just outside of London.
But maybe then he is going to London and you are that Dan.
I am not that Dan.
Okay, good.
Well, to hear from another person, here's our third hidden guest for the day. This is Assistant Mayor of Portsmouth, Joanna Kelly, who's going to talk about a song that she's been listening to a lot.
I listen to what my friends call of like men that sound like they would cry. And so it's a lot of singer-songwriter. I always say that it is...
Me too.
I always say it's like music that sounds sad, but if you listen to the lyrics, like they really actually are kind of great.
Yeah, some people just have sad voices.
Yeah, and some people just like... I love storytelling. I grew up with my grandparents primarily, and they listen to a lot of folk and twangy country, which in reality are all storytelling. And so I really... that just pulls me in. And so right now, my favorite artist, hands down, is Dermot Kennedy. And I've been listening to Sunday, which is off of his new EP. And it's one of those things where it sounds like a man who's going to cry. And it's really about kind of like a love song post relationship. Like if you get those moments with her, like cherish every Sunday. And so I think like a lot of girls, I just am like, well, maybe someone would write that about me. And so that's my big song right now.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Wow, and that is even a better reveal about Joanna Kelly. So to any songwriters out there, myself included, write Joanna Kelly a song. And you have till next Tuesday to do it, to present it on Round the Square. Email me directly at philkliger@gmail.com to involve yourself in the Zach Little sponsored mixtape song about Joanna Kelly.
Are you our first sponsor? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I have great news.
I don't know if I can
yeah.
use the word sponsored.
Well, you are wearing a tie.
Inspired. You are wearing a suit and a tie.
I
Suit
am.
or a
That's
jacket
true.
and tie?
It's a suit. It's a full-on suit.
Are those lobsters?
There are lobsters on the tie. The thing about it is, if you're going to wear a suit, you got to do something to take the air out of it a little bit. Like, there's got to be something funny on your
the air,
tie.
the HEIR, the hair out of it.
It's always
Yeah.
socks for me.
Yes, I'm
yeah.
wearing Mr. Rogers socks, but they're kind of hidden under boots. Boots, that's another thing. I guess I've got 3 things taking the
Okay,
air out of this
yeah.
suit. Maybe I overdid it.
Is there an occasion today? An important meeting? A client?
Yeah, I've got a presentation of the board of directors later. So,
For the
which
big
board?
bank?
yeah, the big
Oh, the bank, where
my
you work,
bank's
yeah.
board of directors. Yeah, yeah. We're going to talk about mental health in the workplace.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Positive mental health, not negative.
Well, let's.
We're going to talk about how to make it better, not how to make it worse. I just want to make that clear.
Okay, good. Fair enough.
What are your solutions to better mental health in the workplace?
Honestly, when it comes to talking about mental health at work, the first thing is talking about it, right? It's about kind of
Yes.
like with any other issue. We're a recovery-friendly workplace as well, and it's sort of the same deal. It's like about creating a shared language so that people can understand each other when we do choose to talk about or disclose things about ourselves, to kind of create a more stigma-free environment, because the more you get on the same page, the more you get on the same page.
As Mark can attest, being behind the kitchen, behind the line, is definitely the least politically correct area to be. Do you guys have a language that transcends language so that you and your cooks know what to do around each other?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of simply, kind of shared movements, really, in the kitchen. So, a simple tap on the bottom of your right leg or your left leg that tells you which direction you need to just step aside without having to say a thing. We were talking about music in the kitchen. I've never been one that's gone for music in the kitchen. Not that I don't love music, but my hearing is a big part of my senses in the kitchen. Not only am I, able to communicate with the other cooks that I'm sharing the kitchen with and the front of house team, but I can hear what's going on at a pan behind me.
Yep. You can hear the fryer when the rangoons have exploded just a little bit, and you know what the cheese sounds like in the fryer, different than when it's just the frozen item, right?
Yeah, I can hear when someone's not using a sharp knife to cut their chives. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's a different sound.
Yeah.
Please cut your vegetables, don't smash them.
It's the same effect in less words. Chilling with this asshole, he call himself Sweatshirt. I think, applying pressure when I put together letters. I'm a king, I'm a myth, beat a bitch down with my scepter. These fitting treasures feeling better than a million sweaters in Alaska. Your raps are corny as Nebraska, laxer. Days go boys, my throwaways are trasher. Highs NASA on acetone, acetone, talking trash like John McEnroe. Eyes closed.
Ooh. Okay, did this work? Let's see how this comes out. Is this in stereo or in mono? Okay. By now, you're probably wondering, what is this episode? And I will level with you. This episode is me learning how to use Adobe Audition. If you're keeping score at home, that actually makes this the 4th piece of editing software that's been deployed in the service of this podcast. And this is the first one that I'm really making the effort to try to learn to use properly. Like any Adobe product, first time you open it, they have these learning modules that come up. And historically, I've always been like, skip immediately so that I can fuck around and find out whatever my own version of that Adobe product is. And this has worked for me because, I've had a casual passing understanding of how computers and how media software mostly work, basically since any of it first became available outside of professional circles. My dad brought home a Macintosh computer when I was in the 5th grade. Somewhere there's a picture of me in front of one that looks just like that picture of Tom York in front of an old Mac. You seen that? Isn't it so funny that when Tom York wrote OK Computer, this massive, sprawling, paranoid album about technology, he was referring to like a Power Mac G3 Tower? Like he was playing like a little 8-bit slalom ski game with his keyboard, and he was like, oh god, it's all over. I gotta go write Paranoid Android. In high school, because of my connection with the local TV station, I was exposed to Avid and Final Cut really early on. And then by the time I got to college, there were 5 or 6 different video editors, and I edited at least one video on every single one of them. And I've just been transferring those skills ever since, from machine to machine, software to software, stumbling into new techniques piecemeal along the way. And by the way, there's no reason that this wouldn't continue to have worked for me for the next decade. We talked a little bit last time about how AI is deeply overpromising what it will do in the foreseeable future, and this week's news is bearing that out. Google's got this new AI-powered search that's apparently telling people to put glue on their pizzas because it's referencing posts on Reddit and not distinguishing joke advice from real advice. Similarly, and more darkly, it's telling people how to kill themselves when they simply express feelings of depression. And you know why this is, right? It is because AI guys say they are thinking through the consequences of their actions, but they're thinking like science fiction screenwriters. They've got a plan for what to do if an AI woman wants to marry a screensaver. They have never thought about the immediate day-to-day consequences of what happens when an AI thinks a Reddit post is the same as a scholarly article. In part because they don't really know that stuff exists. I mean, they do, but they don't. When they imagine the internet, they're just thinking of listicles called like how a grind set mindset will help you set stronger KPIs. There's definitely a kind of running tally online about how tech bros never seem to grasp that most science fiction movies are cautionary tales. It's the Torment Nexus joke from Twitter. You can Google it. Well, actually, maybe you can't. Maybe a Google AI would just misinterpret it for you now. So, okay, the joke is a sci-fi author is saying, like, I wrote this book to show why the Torment Nexus is a horrible idea. And then a tech bro is saying, at long last, we've invented the Torment Nexus from the classic novel, Don't Invent the Torment Nexus. Which is funny, but it's legitimately true that a lot of these guys have very shaky media literacy. I watched that guy I talked about last week from OpenAI. I watched him misinterpret the plot of the movie Her right in front of me, as did, infamously, OpenAI's founder, Sam Altman, who is now literally getting sued by Scarlett Johansson for it. So when I go on long tangents about movies in this podcast, see, I'm doing a public service. I'm passing my overdeveloped sense of media literacy on to the general public. Anyway, this other kind of tangent was just to point out, again, that AI is not taking my job as a writer and editor just yet, and my current skill set is serving me just fine. And yet, I decided it was time for a little skill reset anyway. I decided that I needed to advance my internal culture. And I'm doing it by learning Adobe Audition for real, and by that I mean like at least 20%. Maybe 15%, but like I'm really doing it. I'm following the modules. I'm actually watching YouTube videos where people explain how to use filters. I don't know how to express to you how resistant I have been for the last 10 years about watching instructional YouTube videos. But here I am, now I'm doing it. And do you know what made me want to do this? What spurred me to act, to change? It was, honestly, Apple's list of the top 100 albums. You've probably seen a little bit of or heard tell of this list by now. It's very weird. People made a lot of hay out of the fact that like Taylor Swift was ranked above the Beatles. But, on a recent episode of the podcast The Watch, my guys Chris and Andy, who used to make exactly these kind of lists for Spin Magazine when I was a teenager, they were pretty positive about it as both a provocative list and as a document of a point in time. The cultural context of 2024 absolutely states that you should rank Taylor Swift over the Beatles. That is true to the culture right now. It's fair. You might say that it's stupid, and maybe it is, but no more stupid than the whole enterprise of making a list in the first place. And okay, if this list made you mad, that's fine and valid, and it was kind of supposed to, but also, think about it. What would the alternative be? Do we really need like another Rolling Stone core top 100 albums list? Bob Dylan and the Beatles and Neil Young at the top. Wilco and Radiohead and REM at like 11, 12, 13. Maybe like Nas or Jay-Z at 9 and Jimi Hendrix at 13. Just so it's not entirely white dudes. Maybe Patti Smith and St. Vincent are the first women and they crack the top 20 next to like Peter Frampton. Like, obviously, we've done that. And the Apple list still does a lot of that, and it also has Bad Bunny. The idea of the Apple Computer Corporation as an arbiter of cultural taste is a very novel and kind of wacky concept anyway. Like, let them try, They're still figuring out what they stand for other than pleasant, slightly uncanny-looking TV shows. Let them get weird. And, their pick for the best album of all time, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that's a good pick. Why not? We have to move forward somehow. Maybe we're tripping over our own feet, but hey, that still moves you forward. I guess while we're on the subject, I can do a top 10 albums list, right? My personal top 10 albums. I spent like 20 minutes making this list, so obviously it's perfect and I'll never want to change a thing. Okay, here we go. Number 10, The Dust of Retreat by Margot and the Nuclear So-and-Sos. Number 9, The Ugly Organ by Cursive. Number 8, Pinkerton by Weezer. Number 7, More Adventurous by Rilo Kiley. Number 6, Bitte Orca by the Dirty Projectors. Number 5, Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads. Number 4, Painted Shut, Hop Along. Number 3, Strange Mercy, St. Vincent. Number 2, Funeral, Arcade Fire. Number 1, Lifted, or The Stories in the Soil, Keep Your Ear to the Ground by Bright Eyes, obviously. And my very honorable mentions in like the 11 and 12 spots are The Monitor by Titus Andronicus and The Flying Club Cup by Beirut. And the thing about these records that I picked, they have a very strong ratio of bangers to skips. I'm not going to say that none of them have songs I skip. Most of them certainly do. But they have the ratio. A very strong majority of bangers. But that's less important than the main thing, which is the X factor that they all have, the immaculate vibe. There is this kind of back of my neck, ghostly, thrilling feeling I get when I put on certain records, especially in certain sections, and these all have that. I can actually summon the feeling a little bit just by thinking about the albums without even listening to them. Now, is this the list that I would put together for a magazine or, a tech giant's blog or whatever? Probably not. I'd probably put, Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde, Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run, maybe Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Honestly, I think when people say that album was one of the greatest of all time, they're mostly thinking of the first 45 seconds of All the Lights and of Nicki Minaj's verse from Monster and Runaway. And that is enough. But that album also has a long voicemail from Chris Rock. You gotta deduct some points.